7 out of 10 women said that menopause caused their divorce. 5 out of 6, and I'm one of those statistics, are left financially and physically with the children. That is a reality. You're blindfolded, walking through hot coals backwards with no shoes on. And the longer it goes on, the worse it gets.
Curious to know what led you to this profession and this line of expertise.
Well, one of the first things that I see a lot of is that 75% of the women who I work with have no idea about their finances. They don't know what they own or owe. I don't know if he's got what he earns. I don't know what the mortgage is. I've got no idea.
You must talk about the elephant in the room. You must think about the future. This is, I got to say, it's a heavy conversation, folks. I feel like it's one that
we need a wine now, don't we?
Totally. There's no question.
I gotta say, I'm loving it when I meet people who have seen the episodes and tell me that they've loved it, they've enjoyed it, nice work, all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting because I jump on and look, and I mean, there might be like 1 or 2 comments.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're lucky.
Exactly. And that's what baffles me a lot, because in person, when I'm getting really positive feedback, hey, we've seen your episode, hey, we've seen that you guys got this guest and that guest, and we're like, oh, cool. Where did you watch it, or where did you hear it? And they're like, oh, we heard it on Spotify or watched it on YouTube. Great, subscribe. So that way we know that you're engaged into the content that we're creating. The subscription also helps us to know our audience, and that way, and if you're commenting and engaging on the digital platforms, it helps us to aggregate that pieces of insights, and then we can ask better questions to our guests, right? We can have more guests coming in. What type of guests do you like? What type of content do you want us to investigate more in? So that'd be amazing if we can get that sort of interaction with our audience online. Fantastic.
This has cost you nothing, and it's helped us immensely. Please like and subscribe. Now, let's get into the next episode. Welcome to Home Run. Our guest, Bridgette Jackson, divorce coach, lawyer, relationship coach, mediator, colourful character.
Thank you, yes.
It's great to have you on the podcast with us.
Well, I'm really thrilled to be here. Looking forward to it, yeah.
Can you give us just a quick insight into what you think our viewers are going to get out of the session today?
They are going to get some fantastic tips in terms of if you're on the fence about leaving, or you're in the process of leaving, or needing to support someone who's going through the process. And also the real estate agents as well, when they're dealing with couples who are separating, because that can be an absolute minefield, going through that process. But, my view is that it's all about helping people separate with dignity or stay with sincerity. And there is so much content, and absolutely someone's going to get something that's going to be gold out of the session, even if they can share that with someone who needs it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it's not something that people, if you take a real estate view, spend a lot of time thinking about what's the exit strategy if things go wrong. So I imagine there's going to be some real practical tips here and some stories, but I'm curious to know what led you to this profession and this line of expertise.
Well, I've walked in everyone's shoes. So I went through a very protracted, acrimonious separation that took 5 years to settle. Wow. It cost me $500,000. And it massively affected my 4 children, who at that stage were aged from 12 down to 5. And I thought there's got to be a better and a more positive way to do it. So I was speaking to a partner of a law firm who went to my RPM class with me, and I said, I really want to help in this space. And he said, why don't you become a divorce coach? So next minute, I had signed up through the US to become a divorce coach.
Wow.
And I've found my calling. I never envisaged that I would be a divorce coach and a relationship coach, and my horoscope says that I'm a natural mediator, and and I love it. It's my real passion, and it's certainly not for the faint-hearted, but this is my calling. It really is. And when people come to me, because I've been in this business now for 7 years at the coalface and the trenches, sometimes I have to go into my office and have a wee cry when people say, you've changed our lives. You were the godsend when I was drowning. I mean, I can't put into words how incredible that is.
Of course.
Yeah, these are big things that people are dealing with. I see it at the pointy end of the stick when negotiating at an auction, talking with an agent who's reached out for, hey, what do I do in this situation? So I'm very grateful to get some of your expertise, because you're dealing with what happens perhaps before it's that decision-making time at contract point. But yeah, there's a lot going on there. I think it's interesting to me because I'm just at the age and stage where I've now got, close friends who are going through that process, or have narrowly avoided it, or, but if I rewind maybe even only 5 years ago, my only real experiences with it was in the profession of real estate. So it occurred to me that people don't think about this until they're in it, and then nobody knows what to do.
No. So a divorce coach, in my opinion, what we do is we are people's thinking partners. We hold their hands through the process, helping them make the best decisions that they can make, avoiding the mistakes that so many people make, including myself. And it makes a fundamental difference. We focus on the 5 pillars of legal parenting, financial well-being, and career or business. And we save people money, time, and lessen the emotional toll. A lawyer rang me up the other day and said, Bridgette, you've saved this couple $100,000.
Wow.
The pertinent thing is you need to put your children as a priority, because if you do this the wrong way, you're going to have regrets, and the children are massively affected for the rest of their lives, from young right through to adult children. There is a better way to do it. You can separate with dignity if you are going to go down that road, rather than try and rebuild your current relationship.
What are those common pitfalls do you see people doing when they're going through that process?
From just generally, one of the first things that I see a lot of is that 75% of the women who I work with have no idea about their finances. They don't know what they own or owe. I don't know if he's got what he earns. I don't know what the mortgage is. I've got no idea. So first of all, you actually need to be able to take control. Knowledge is power, and know what you own and owe, your assets and liabilities. Even if you're not getting separated, you still need to know what that looks like. So that's vitally important, because otherwise you are on the back foot. If the other partner manages your finances, the last thing you want, particularly if you're the initiator of the separation, they are the receiver and feel like they're blindsided, you might end up having to go to court to get a court order to get transparency around what those finances are. And I think also it really is thinking about, what do I want my child to say about the way that mum and dad, or dad and I, whatever that looks like, separated? What do you want them to be telling other people? What is that going to look like?
Yeah.
And realising that you are going to get emotionally dysregulated, even if it's an amicable or acrimonious separation. Get support. Get your D team around you, okay? So you need someone who can help. If you need help in terms of a therapist, get that.
Hey, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Quick interruption and request. Please like and subscribe, and don't be too Kiwi about it. If there's a question you've asked, or if we've done something silly, let us know in the comments and share it with a friend. Now back to the content.
Engage a divorce coach before. Don't run off to a lawyer, okay? Lawyers are there for a reason. Their job is to be positional, okay? So that's to give independent advice to both of you. You need a legal counsel each. You need a lawyer each in terms of this process. But don't just make snap decisions. I have a lot of people coming to me to prepare to separate, and that includes the likes of how you tell your partner that you're wanting to leave. Coming back to, we want to keep it amicable from the start right to the end. How to tell the children that you're going to be separating. Obviously, both parties are going to have to be part of that conversation. That divorce disclosure research maintains that children want both parents to be there. There needs to be a conversation around telling family and friends, because that can escalate the conflict in terms of what narrative that is. Obviously, the financials, there needs to be interim logistics, including where are we going to live, how are we going to co-parent the children, what does that look like, all those sort of things. It's like a job getting separated. You know, it really is. There's a lot involved. There's the right way to do it, and then there's the wrong way to do it.
Tell us some more about, I guess we're going straight into it's happening. And what is the contrast for people that perhaps engage a divorce coach late in the piece versus someone that's, or some, you know, people together that have worked with a divorce coach earlier?
So I get.
And can you prevent it if you?
Well, I mean, you know, I spend a lot of time saying this. You know, you can only control your own actions and behaviours. You can't control anyone else's. And I can't guarantee that I'm going to help you to resolve your separation, obviously, because I can't be responsible for you. People come to me late in the piece. There's a number of reasons, but predominantly one of the reasons, and this is huge, which I've already talked about briefly, is that you need to engage legal counsel who's got the right style and approach for you. Do you want someone who's going to be a peacemaker? Do you want someone who's going to be a bulldog? What is that going to look like for you? And people go through the process and realise, oh my God, I'm on that treadmill heading towards or in the middle of litigation. And, you know, we've spent however many dollars down the toilet, and our relationship has got worse. The children are affected more, and on it goes. You know, so my guidance would be see a divorce coach early if you can, even if you're on the fence about leaving. If you are unsure, you need some clarity, and clarity isn't going to come by you sitting around waiting for it to happen. You know, you need to be empowered. You actually need to make one small step to go in that direction. You know, at the end of the day, I'd love to be out of business. I would love to not have to deal with people's separation, but for whatever reason, people separate. But you know, my guidance is don't leave any stone unturned in terms of trying to make your relationship work, because it's very difficult when you've gone down that path to actually wind that back.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. So, you know, for us, if you can stay with sincerity, obviously both parties have got to want to be in that relationship. So, you know, what do we need to negate that's in our relationship? What can we preserve? You know, what is this going to look like moving forward for us? You're both going to have to make the changes. You know, there is compromise involved. And it's tough. You know, have you done the couples counselling? We've got a fence sitter course. Have you done the course? We've got a free masterclass, etc. But, you know, lying on your deathbed at 85 or 90, whatever that is, you know, are you going to have regrets that you didn't give it a go in terms of your relationship? If your partner says, please come to counselling with me, then do it. You know, I see a lot of people with addictions, the drinking, the drugs, and they're married to that monster. You got to get help. You know, and a divorce coach works with everyone in the divorce space, so can certainly help you to get you in touch with the right professionals. Because we do a bit of a roadmap. You know, what are the outcomes you want? How are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? And who else do we need to bring into the fold?
So what are some of those practical considerations where it's happening that people perhaps haven't thought about until that moment that maybe they should be thinking about, you know, before they either maybe the very early stages of a relationship? Do you think prenup agreements are worthwhile? I think you mentioned earlier to me about postnup. What are some of those things, and are they worthwhile, or do they bring harm to the relationship?
I think
from the start?
Things have certainly changed during the last number of years. You know, people now predominantly are having prenups.
Predominantly?
Going into relationships. Well, because women now, obviously, it's quite different from 30 years ago in terms of careers and property. And so my guidance would be, yes, get a prenup, even if it's a second relationship or third. I mean, I don't want to give you the stats of second and third relationships, but they're a lot less in terms of succeeding. And a postnup is obviously if you're already in a relationship to get one.
So you don't want to give the stats because you're not clear on what they are, or
they're huge. I mean, they're big. I mean, it's approximately the more divorces that the more marriages that you have, it increases. I think in terms of looking at it, it sort of goes up in sort of 25% increments. So by the time you have a fourth marriage, it's about an 85% chance of separating.
Wow. Yeah.
But, people have got the opportunity, if you're going into a second relationship, to actually make those changes. Because we all have to make changes. We're not perfect. Perfection doesn't exist.
In a prenup, how do you, like, if you're in obviously a healthy relationship, would that bug your partner if you bring that up as a subject?
Well, do you know how I would frame it? It's safeguarding and protecting both of us. Okay? It's not about just you. It's got to be both sides.
Yeah.
How does it protect both sides?
Well, in terms of your assets and your liabilities, it's all laid out there if you do separate. And the time to have the discussion is when you're in a good space, okay? Because predominantly people separate. Less people are getting married, but more people are in de facto relationships. And the Property Relationship Act still applies after 3 years earlier if you've had a child. So these conversations people don't have. Who's going to be the caregiver?
How is it? Let's get into some of the stuff like how's that actually defined? So 3 years of a de facto relationship, what makes it, what classes as a de facto relationship? When is that clock ticking?
Well, it sort of varies, but when people obviously are living together, pretty much permanently, is rare when it really starts.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got to make sure.
So if you're in a good space and this is getting serious, you need to actually stop and go, hey, we should be a bit intentional here rather than just sort of cruising through it.
Oh, absolutely. And then it's 5 years later and, things fall apart and then the shit hits the fan and then the lawyers have a new Porsche, We've got it and a new building. That's what I probably paid for, I think. We've got a relationship readiness quiz, which we can share, I can share, which people can use in terms of if you're thinking you're going to commit to being in this relationship, you need to know, are you a spender? Are you a saver? How do you deal with stress? How are we going to look after our parents in retirement? All of these sort of questions. What sort of parenting styles do we have? So for those who are wanting to commit to being in a relationship, or even people who are already committed in a relationship and need a bit of a refresh, a reboot, because
no, that's interesting, because if you're the partner who's instigating this, how do you create that environment for the other partner to actually
so if you're the
take that
initiator
seriously,
of you mean separation or having the prenup discussion?
Or the prenup discussion.
Well, I think you're just very open and honest, talking in the positive first. I love you very much. And, this is going to secure and safeguard and protect our future moving forward. And talk about, and we've all seen it, scenarios of these acrimonious separations. I mean, I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy, what I've been through and what I've seen other people go through. It's not at the top as the stress continuum for no reason. It's next to someone dying, and they have not died, but if it's acrimonious, they're still around, but it feels like they've died. I mean, I can't put into words the journey of separation. This is how I describe it. You're blindfolded, walking through hot coals, backwards with no shoes on. And the longer it goes on, the worse it gets.
Painful, scary, haven't done it before. And I've got to say, the complexity involved, just as we've been talking already, is quite overwhelming.
Become somebody you're not. People lose their identity, they lose their purpose. Speaking to clients yesterday, Bridgette, I've become somebody I'm not.
But it's horribly sad.
It's horribly sad, but there are some positives. The relief that people feel that they're not stuck in this toxic relationship. Their house is their safe haven, becomes their safe haven again. So, I mean, I come away and I just, some of the situations that I see, particularly the very extreme acrimonious situations, it's absolutely heartbreaking. And it doesn't have to be like this.
If it's become that, are you or someone able to wind that back to a position of more harmony and I guess, successful, for lack of a better word, separation?
It depends on the personalities. When you're dealing with high conflict personalities, it's a whole different kettle of fish.
And if you then have legal counsel, that is, as you mentioned, and I get that legal counsel has to be positional, because I think that's probably an important point maybe for you to share a little bit more to help people understand why that lawyer is that way. And then, as you say, there's a bit of a spectrum there in the sort of representation you have. If you've got the confrontational partners and then lawyers at battle,
it's a mix of
if you started that journey, if you started that journey thinking we want to do this well for us and for the kids, it doesn't seem that the actions are then congruent with that goal.
And also in terms of the support group, and this is why we are developing a specific package for supporters of people, an online course, who are going through separation. It's actually family and friends can actually increase the conflict. They can actually make the scenario worse. Go and see so-and-so, the neighbour's friend across the road use this bulldog. I mean, it just, so for us, it's really ensuring that the support people get from family and friends is positive.
What can we do as a family member or a friend of someone going through this?
You need to actually sit down with them and paint a picture of what that's going to look. Yeah, absolutely. And paint a picture. Don't take sides, because a lot of people take side. It's paint a picture of what that's going to look like. If we go down the pathway of being litigious, putting our children in the middle of it, this is what it's going to look like. Yeah. However, if we get the support we need, divorce coaches, therapists, whatever it is.
Do you want to hit a home run in your property journey?
Please like the episode, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and enjoy the show.
This is the road you want to be going down. Okay. So I can't stress enough that if your car breaks down, you go to a mechanic. Okay. So engaging the professionals who know this process backwards, you need to do that. And reaching out, if you're a supporter, to a divorce coach, and I have that a lot with parents of adult children. We are beside ourselves. We've done everything we possibly can, but we can't help them anymore, and they're not listening. So,
at what point, like a family or a family member or a friend will realize that? Because obviously, it's very easy for them to take the side because they care about that person. When do they when should the light bulb help for them to reach that point of going, look, this is out of our hands, it's better for them to see a professional, because it needs to be on an even ground? Because
sooner rather than later, because we have a lot of people saying, I've said my friend's got to come and see you because I've now been dealing with this for 2 years. And I'm, they are saying, I am not experienced in this. I've never been through divorce, whatever that looks like. I'm not a therapist. And real estate agents have to deal with it too. They're like hairdressers, aren't they? Massagers, masseuses, whatever. You end up being a quasi-psychologist, particularly with people who are separating. And, sometimes, one of the tips for real estate agents is that you need to keep telling them, obviously you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. They need to actually seek out the professionals who can support them in that regard. Because in terms of your role as a real estate agent, it can get extremely exhausting having to deal with people's issues who are like this. A real estate agent needs to be neutral in the process. They need to ensure that there's written documentation. Both parties are included in all of your communications simultaneously. If it's really acrimonious, you have to have separate meetings or do joint Zooms. You're dealing with a different kettle of fish here. One party might be trying to stop the sale from happening, not signing the agreement, all of that. So my guidance is that they need the likes of divorce coaches to be there helping them through this process.
What are some of the things that you focus on? Let's say you're brought into that process, almost like a consultant to the sale. And let's play the picture, which I know you've seen and I've seen as well, where, you know, one of the parties is like a drowning man. He'll drown the rescuer. You know, he cut off the nose to spite the face type scenario. How do you help to calm that situation and ultimately for them to make decisions that they'll look back on and go, I'm so pleased we did it that way?
I have a bit of a reality check, obviously, in terms of what it's going to look like if you continue down this way. And, you know, you talk about your children being the priority, and you're certainly not acting like that right now. Teaching them how to communicate. So communication coaching.
What are some tips for communicating better?
Avoid being passive or passive aggressive. It's about being assertive. When you do this to me, this is how you make me feel. Right. So we do a lot of work in terms of that with role plays. If it's with an individual, I role play the other partner, or we work together with the couples in terms of doing that. There needs to be, because I think they're home to these people. It's an emotional sale, if it is a sale. You know, it's a loss of community, of connectedness with friends and family and the neighbourhood, you know, and all of that. It's actually, from a real estate perspective, the emotional readiness needs to match up with the market readiness. You know, that is one really important talk. I'm happy to do some workshops actually moving forward for real estate agents, because it's very easy for real estate agents to go, oh my God, this is too much for me. I don't want to be part of
I think
this.
there's a sense in some cases where I see that the emotional readiness is not there with both parties.
Yes.
But it's already 3 years.
Yeah.
So there's maybe some...
So there needs to, so I've got some separation personas that I have come up with. So obviously there's the fence sitter who sits on the fence about leaving. There's the initiator of the separation, which is 70% of women are the initiators of separation.
Interesting.
Men seem to be predominantly, happy is not the word, but willing to stay in a relationship that's not serving them well at all. They will do it to the day they die. And there is this syndrome called woman walk away syndrome, and women go, that's it. I've had enough. I'm, you know, wiping the children's butt. I'm doing everything for my partner. I'm done. And away they go. And the man comes home and goes, why there isn't any furniture left in the house? I've seen that happen. So that's a real thing. Menopause. 7 out of 10 women said that menopause caused their divorce.
Wow.
There was a UK study done in 2022. Women need to talk to men about what's going on, and men need to actually, rather than saying, well, I'd rather leave than go to couples counselling, they actually need to take action too. What I am seeing in my practice is a lot of people, predominantly men, who have got addictions, alcohol, drugs. They become depressed. They haven't worked for years. Then the separation happens. So there's a lot going on there, but you've got to help yourself. Men think still, but it's getting better. You know, 40% of my practice is men, 60% women. Men still think, though, that they can do it themselves. They can deal with it all themselves. And you can't. You know, you need that support through it as well, whether that is helping you to rebuild your relationship from your part, or obviously going alone moving forward. The onus it's got to be on you. No one else is going to do it. I say to people say, well, just tell me what to do, you know, and I'm like, I don't live behind your closed doors. I don't say, you know, I'm not contemptuous in your house. I don't roll my eyes, because contempt is a 90% predictor of separation.
Wow.
There's a lot involved. You know, there really is.
So if you're in a relationship and you're spotting contempt in your counterpart, you
need help.
You need help.
You need help.
And what would you recommend? What's the most effective help that you can get?
I think you need to actually get some couples counselling with someone who's going to give you some really tangible tools to be able to use moving forward.
Yeah.
But then you both have to use those tools.
Yeah.
You know, and it's laying it out. And instinctively, there's the elephants in the room. Got a black cloud hanging over your head because the relationship's not working, but we don't talk about it. Communication is, or lack thereof, is definitely a road down separation. Financial constraints obviously is huge. Parenting, infidelity, I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to communicate with each other because no one's got ESP. And yeah, it's tough, but relationships do have their ups and downs. Some fighting is good fighting, but then some people just end up stonewalling, just don't even communicate. They're walking around like flatmates in different rooms, no intimacy. The kids don't even see them touching or kissing or doing anything. And it's a recipe for disaster because if you don't do anything within 6 years of your relationship issues, it's over, Red Rover. So I can't stress it enough because the grass is not always greener.
Yeah. Do you see that as almost like a cultural difference as well, or generational difference, where obviously the older generation would toughen it out and see through the marriage, even though knowing there's cracks in there, versus now with the newer generation where they're a lot more transparent with their relationship?
Absolutely, and that's a great thing. That's a great thing. But also, relationships seem to be quite disposable quickly because in 5 minutes you could be on Tinder talking to 5 girls or something, it. But yeah, you just don't want to have any regrets that you haven't given it a go.
Yeah.
You've got to do everything to try and make it work. But remembering there's 2 people in that relationship, not one. Both people have got to play their part. And if one of you doesn't, then that is the sign to you that you got to get out of there. Because you're missing out on someone out there who is potentially better suited to you. And my guidance, if you are single, become single. Don't rush into another relationship with somebody else. I've been there myself. I thought to myself when I left my husband that I'd rather be in any relationship than on my own. And that was a disaster. And, what you need to do is you need to take the time coming back to finding yourself again, finding your purpose, finding your identity. You need to heal. You really do.
Just be comfortable with yourself again.
Yeah. And if you want to have another relationship one day, work on the things that you need to work on.
Yeah.
And, focus on your health and well-being. Loving yourself first. Put yourself first. Put yourself as a priority. Surround yourself with people who love you for who you are. I can't stress it enough.
I mean, there's some, quite, what's the right word? I appreciate just how you've laid it out, some big stuff there, eh? And it's critically important to just our societies, really. I wonder if you go to it's Splitsville. What are the hallmarks or the practical things that you see of the ones that are more successful? And obviously, I guess this is in your coaching practice that you're trying to help establish for people who are going through that.
The biggest thing is they've both made a commitment to put the children as a priority. And I predominantly see couples with children, whether they're adult children get massively affected. That is the biggest thing, always in the back of their mind.
What does that mean? So we say, all right, we've got to put the children first.
What does that mean? Okay,
Is it putting the children first? I guess if that relationship's really toxic, it is putting the children first.
It's putting the children first because I think people think that children don't see what goes on in a relationship when it's not, in the toxic environment. But, children are saying to parents, Mum, Dad, you need a divorce because awful living in the house. I get that a lot. So you're actually doing a favour to your children by actually having them in 2 homes or whatever that looks like, because they're sick of living with the constant yelling and fighting and behaviours. So putting them as a priority, realising that you don't want to use them as pawns, as leverage. Just one of the worst things that you can ever do, because it haunts children for years, is disparaging the other partner to the children. I mean, that is do not even go there.
No matter how bad it's got, no matter what they've done, don't go there.
Do not go there. Do not say it. Do not write it down. Inevitably, it ends up acrimonious. The other thing that's really important is that the children are not there to support you. You need to support them. You need to get support for them as well. You need to nurture them. They need that stability and clarity and support. And if you need to engage child psychologists, whatever that looks like, then you need to do that.
How do you deal with that if you're in a toxic relationship where obviously the
other party needs to consent to the help? It's tough. Dealing with high conflict personalities, particularly if you've been the initiator and they're the receiver, because life is now out of control for them. The perfect step for life is not what it is because they care what other people think.
Hey, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Quick interruption and request. Please like and subscribe, and don't be too Kiwi about it. If there's a question you've asked or if we've done something silly, let us know in the comments and share it with a friend. Now back to the content.
It's very difficult to engage with high conflict personalities. I don't work with high conflict personalities who come and see me as clients because they don't need divorce coaches. They want to be litigious. So there's a lot of strategies that we talk about to deal with high conflict personalities. The first thing is to disengage. Disengage, disengage, disengage. If you're dealing with a high conflict personality, it needs to be done through a parenting app, like Our Family Wizard, for example, because that moderates bad written communication. You need to ensure that you've got legal counsel which they have, dealt with high conflict personalities. But you want to try and minimise that, obviously, because high conflict personalities love lawyers. As I said, love litigation, all of that. So working with a psychologist. It's interesting. Clients come into my office and it's not until we do some coaching about high conflict personalities that there is a light bulb moment for them, because they have been gaslit. They have thought that actually I'm completely, fully to blame because I'm not good enough. I'm not perfect.
So what are some of the telltale signs that you are, your counterpart in this is actually a high conflict personality?
So, because we don't diagnose them, obviously that's not our role, that's not our remit, but yes. So you find yourself feeling worthless and hopeless and you're not good enough. You feel like, there's conversations going on, but you actually heard something quite different to what they've said. For example, they're charming to everyone else, but behind closed doors, they're putting you down. There might be emotional abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, all of those things, the contempt, the list goes on. Different sort of personalities happening. You're disparaging you to the children, making life hard for you. The list goes on. You
mentioned that disparaging one about the children, where one of the people involved is, trying to do the right thing and the other one isn't, and you can't control them. Is there anything you can do to ameliorate that harm to the children?
Well, I think the thing is that you just continue to be the great parent that you are, and
don't slip into a tit for tat.
No, absolutely not. Do not. And if they come home and said, Dad says you this and that, and say, well, that's that's dad's prerogative. Let's go and play a game of tennis or something. You've just
blow past it.
I can't stress how difficult it can be not to start playing that game, particularly with the emotional dysregulation. So get help. Part of what we do is people can ring us during sessions. Ring your divorce coach, rather than sending an abusive text or going and telling your children that your father's seeing somebody else and blah, 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 because it all comes back. People use their children to get information, to get intel. Be the bigger person. And I tell you what, it's going to hold you in good stead moving forward. And it might take a few years to get there, but it absolutely will. Because as children get older, they see, well, actually, mum's a really great mum. And dad's behaving like this, or the opposite, or same sex, or whatever that looks like. So hold your ground. Go and talk to somebody else. If you talk to a family member or a friend, make sure it's someone who is going to be supportive, but professional help. I can't stress it enough. You need it. And I know it's expensive, it's costly, but it just in terms of this process, it's going to really be a positive thing.
Yeah. You mentioned, not disparaging the other person to the kids. What are some of the other things to either avoid or positively do that you'd be coaching towards better outcomes?
Well, co-parenting. Okay, so making sure that, it may even be parallel parenting. You might be parallel parenting in silo.
What does that mean?
So what that means is that obviously the relationship with your former partner, father or mother of your child, is not good. So you actually end up parenting separately, okay, and don't communicate about it because you just cannot communicate, whether that's written or see each other. So actually establishing a parenting plan and what does that look like is very important. If you need to move from an interim plan, if you have a trial separation, or an interim plan with a permanent separation and then move to a more permanent arrangement, what is that going to look like? What's going to work for the children? What's going to work for us? Is it 50-50? Are they really young? Is it a 2, 3, or whatever that looks like? So all of that is a big job, working through that. Are we going to be using our joint account for the shared expenses? What does that look like? So all of that needs to be worked through. Coming back to, you can only play your part. If you're with a high conflict personality, you can't control what they do or don't do. There are things that need to be put in place. If people have got addictions, there might have to be supervised access. It just all depends on the scenario. And that's why we do a deep dive discovery session with clients to ensure that we've got full oversight of what the relationship looks like, so we can actually give them the guidance and obtain positive and sustainable outcomes moving forward, so they can, they can have a new life that's, whether they stay together or whether they leave, it is going to be positive. And, because we find some people, and from an acrimonious separation, it ends up having a detrimental effect on them for the rest of their lives. Monetary, emotionally, family-wise, and on the list goes on.
Do you think that might be the reason why their second or third or fourth relationship tends to...
because they haven't dealt with their shit.
Because they haven't.
Quite frankly. They haven't thought, well, actually, how can I make the changes that I need so I'm not bringing... Well, let's face it, we have all got plane loads of baggage. We only need one plane for our baggage. You need to offload that before you start another relationship. Otherwise...
You're carrying it.
And as we know, your childhood sets the scene for what you're like when you're older. How were you treated? Were you treated with no empathy when you were younger? Well, if that's the case, potentially you're a high conflict personality and at some level, because people who are in have family like that, empathy is like being colourblind. You know, so don't dismiss your childhood. Go and get someone who can help you deep dive into all of that and unpack why you're doing this is because of what happened in your childhood. You know, and that will avoid you on your fourth relationship because you feel like you have to be loved, so you marry someone again. And the same behaviour happens.
Do you have cases where if in your prenup or you initiate the conversation and if anything, that's made the relationship stronger?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there's been discussions, for example, about if you decide to have children, you have that conversation about who's going to be caregiver. You know, who's going to sacrifice their career to bring up the children while the other partner's career excels. Then if you end up getting separated, which obviously is a more than 50% chance you might, you've had the conversation about the fact that spousal maintenance, economic disparity. So economic disparity is obviously focusing on the fact that someone has committed their life to bringing up the children. So obviously their career has been impacted from a financial perspective. Absolutely. I mean, it would save so much heartache and unhappiness and could avoid you separating.
How's that in today's day and age where you said, obviously, you know, there are a lot more women in general that have more careers now than they used to. So does that make it to be a more of a difficult conversation to have?
No, because, it's really talking about, you know, what does that look like? Is it going to be the mother having the first 6 months off and then paternal leave? You know, I mean, all of that, a great opportunity then when the child's been weaned or whatever that is for the partner to actually have some time. But obviously it depends on economics, doesn't it? The financial. So who's earning, who is the main breadwinner, or are you both, you know, so it really depends on scenarios. But I can't stress enough that, you know, spending time with your children. Children want time. They want your time. They don't want all the plastic stuff. They want their parents.
So have we gone backwards as a society or have we moved forward?
I think it's a bit of a combination. You know, I think in terms of this generation, now people are realising that prenups are a great thing. It's a safeguard, it's protection. But what I do think, which is missing from the earlier years, is it's not just about on the day when you get married or the next 2 years. What about the next 50 years? So we're developing a course, premarital coaching, including that relationship readiness 60 questions.
We'll chuck a link to that in the show notes so you can have a look and
because
ask those questions.
Yeah, because I think people don't take the time to think about what it really takes to be in a relationship and having those discussions. A couple of years ago, I sat on a ferry and it was with a whole lot of girls going to a hen's party. I thought, right, I'm going to...
Market research.
Yeah.
Gosh, the
I've got the photo somewhere. I've got the photo somewhere. I was going to Waiheke, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. And I said to them, so how many of you actually know what you own and owe? And three quarters of them had blank faces, realising that, oh shit, I don't. And how many of you actually thought about retirement? Well, yeah, that wasn't good either. And how many of you actually have been to a church or done some work with couples, a counsellor, therapist, whatever that may be, in terms of, you know, you moving forward and deciding to get married? Nobody. Nobody. It's all about the great big day on social media with the fancy everything and, you know, whatever it costs. And then
it's all icing, no cake.
And then kids. And that comes with a whole lot of pressures, expectations that the mum or dad was going to be, you know, doing a lot more than actually what they're doing. Obviously, COVID uncovered all of this. So there's a lot, but, I just stress people, the biggest takeaway that I want for you all is if you're in shit, get help. If you need support, get it. If your relationship's feeling like it's not quite where it needs to be, like it was in the old days or whatever that looks like, talk about it. Do something about it before it's too late, before you're sitting there regretting that you haven't made an effort. And for men, get that support to be able to actually articulate and have that conversation. From my perspective, when you yell at me like that, this is how it makes me feel. We need to, it's coming back to the basics of treating each other with kindness and respect. I can't stress that enough. I wanted to come back to lawyers, and you were talking about being positional. Lawyers, that's their job, to be positional and protect the interests
of their client.
Of their independent client. Absolutely. The law is there for a reason. You need to be educated and informed about that. But as I say to my clients, my couples that work with me, you can decide anything. If you want to both retain your KiwiSavers or whatever that may be, as long as you're in agreement, you can do whatever you want. But it's prudent, it's important, you need to get your separation agreement certified by your respective counsel. And coming back to the fact that if you've got separate accounts, etc., you can't be hiding everything. You have to be transparent. You do. It's full stop.
I've got to say, and you're our guest, but I'd love you to share some of the things you see mistakes made. But I see occasionally a blind side happen. We're setting the reserve and maybe it seemed to be a reasonably happy kind of dynamic. And then boom, there's a last minute disclosure. Just so you know, I want to bid on the property. But they say this after they've set the reserve.
And that just
that might have been possible, but now that you've dropped the bombshell after the fact, you've blown that opportunity. It may still be possible, and I've helped people move through it. But there's some little mistakes like that are quite critical where people haven't been upfront earlier on that make it harder, not easier.
I know. I mean, I've seen it all. I was working with a couple the other day, and he'd been paying the mortgage for 4 years because they haven't got around to separating. And so obviously he's able to claw back with, in terms of the wash up of the separation property, half of the mortgage that he's paid. And hadn't got legal advice all those years ago. She said, if I had known that, I would have moved out of the house straight away. Same goes with occupational rent. People don't realise if they're renting, they actually can recoup that. And once again, a wash up in terms of the separation pool, the marital pool. There are so many things that happen. The other thing that I see too a lot, if your house doesn't sell, what's plan B and C? What does that look like? Are you going to rent it out? Is so-and-so going to continue staying in there? We need to talk about it. We need to talk about the worst case scenario. One thing I see a lot is that particularly women who have no idea about their finances, nurturing mother, wanting to create a nice home for their family, they go and buy houses before they've been settled, which immediately, you would have seen it, puts them in the back seat, and the partner finds out about it, ensures that there's not settlement, loses the deposit, all those sort of things happen. There's got to be open discussion. What is the reserve? There's got to be agreement on the reserve. There's got to be agreement on the time frames. There's got to be agreement on signing the document, making sure you're happy with that. There are so many things.
I've seen some mistakes made where people have lost out financially together because at that moment it's all of the hurt and baggage and other things, and this is their last chance to punish the other partner. Yeah. And,
And it's the children who get massively affected by all of that. The reality is 1 out of 3 women are left in poverty after separation. And 5 out of 6, and I'm one of those statistics, are left financially and physically with the children. That is a reality. It's, don't get me started on child support, with the creative accounting that goes on. It's, the whole system needs an overhaul. It really does.
What should be done?
Oh, there needs to be, so, for example, people don't realise that in relation to a home that's obviously separate property, that actually a partner can actually get 50% of it, of that property that was separate property, potentially if there's not a prenup, postnup, whatever that looks like. There needs to be, we need, I think from my perspective, we need to have, it needs to be modernised. There needs to be potentially the Law Commission maintained a family allowance that included spousal maintenance and the economic disparity. I think there needs to be a focus on the children being able to stay in the house for a certain period of time, because they need, if they're going through divorce, they need somewhere where they can have that stability. They can have that place that they know is their home and all of that uncertainty. Because we see scenarios where women are chucked out of the house with children, and women leave without getting legal advice and leave the house, aren't able to get back in. It's used as leverage against them. There are so many things that need to change, but I don't think that any government's going to touch it. Quite frankly, it's a hot.
And society has changed as well. I think just something that I've observed is, the assumption is that, and like you say, the numbers bear this out, that often it is, the mum that ends up the caregiver when the kids are young, and then is disadvantaged. But I can think of a couple of scenarios in, I guess, my sphere where it's almost been the opposite.
Absolutely.
She's high-powered, well-earning, and it made financial sense for the family. And the dad's amazing, so he stays with the kids. But then his career dwindles, and there's almost this attraction dynamic, which, those men that I know have spoken to me about, where they go, I should never have done that, because my wife suddenly became more successful than me, and she sees other successful men, and naturally there's an attraction to that, and it killed my relationship becoming the primary caregiver.
And
is that a dynamic that you see? Is there truth to that?
There's truth to that, absolutely. And it's having those conversations, not just conversations, documenting it. If he's going to be the caregiver for however many years, that's got to be in the prenup, and this is what it's going to look like if we separate. All of that. I know it sounds like, oh God, it sounds, because I can see that you're a bit nervous about having that conversation. But it's actually a good thing. You don't want to be in that situation, do you?
You must talk about the elephant in the room. You must think about the future. This is, I got to say, it's a heavy conversation, folks. I feel like it's one that
we need a wine now, don't we?
There's no question. I just thought, and I'm so pleased that we've had you on the show to talk about this, because it's not a conversation that happens often. It's an icky topic. We don't want to talk about it. I don't know if it's a Kiwi thing or just a human thing. We don't like talking about money. We don't like thinking about what might go wrong when we're starting out. But if we don't do it, we're maybe putting our head in the sand, and certainly a mountain. It becomes a real mountain that you have to scale, and it's treacherous.
And before you know, you've loved your lost one, loved one. And I don't want, as I said, I'd love to be out of business with but for whatever reasons, relationship.
I don't think there's any risk of that.
No.
Unfortunately, but I also hope that we can perhaps help prevent some avoidable accidents.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm here, you can book in a 15-minute call with me. It's no charge. I'm happy to chat to anyone. If I can make a difference in people's lives, that's a great thing.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I think also that when you refer to that course, that we can link to our show as well.
Yes.
That'd be amazing. That could be whoever the initiator is can actually go on it and actually, go through the process to actually be in that mindset of going, we can reach out to professionals, because it's not something that, as David said, is something that you think about initially, or think that, yes, you're going to go and reach out to a professional. First of all, you're going to go to a family member or a friend and a shoulder to cry on. And like you said, most times they're the ones that are actually going to take your side, as opposed to look at the problem objectively.
Oh, they can't. I mean, there's this conscious and unconscious bias.
Yeah.
Okay, naturally.
Naturally, that would happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it's going to be the best money that they've ever spent is going to professionals who have deal with this day in, day out.
So what have you seen?
Well, in terms of worst case scenarios, someone has burnt down the family home.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
I mean, people get absolutely desperate. People turn to things to try and make themselves feel better. And it just implodes. But on the flip side, many, many, many happy stories, positive stories. And I'll give you an example with a couple that I worked with, and they said, Bridgette, we can't thank you enough coming to you. We are better parents now, and you've helped us, coached us in that regard to be better parents to our daughter. And life is wonderful. We even have dinners on Wednesday nights with each other.
Amazing.
So I just want to say, to everyone out there, there is hope. You can do this. Get the right support by your side, and you will never, ever regret it. Yeah.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
There is light. There is fireworks. There is, there is great stuff at the end of those tunnels. That black cloud above your head is no longer there anymore. It's replaced with the sun.
Yeah.
Outstanding, Bridgette. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me
Bridgette,
on.
thank you so much for coming into the show. Look forward to having you. Take care.
That was awesome.
Look, this is home run podcast, man. This is the big deal right here. Although, to be fair, you wouldn't know based on our subscriber and likes and comments, basically non-existent, by the way, at this point. We are still at the beginning of our podcast journey. And actually, jokes aside, it would mean the world to us if you would like, subscribe, leave a comment, share it with a friend. It helps us know that we're making a difference. And to be fair, it's good for the ego.
Yeah, whatever he said, make sure you do it, because that will help my ego too.
Absolute muffins. He's too humble. He's too humble.
Man.
You must be proud of what we're doing here.
I'm incredibly proud of what we're doing, but I just don't know. I've never gone into this cycle of always, I've never asked for help.
Yeah, you've never needed the validation.
I'm always giving. Yeah. I feel very awkward, even if someone comes to me and says, what you've done is a great job. And I'm like, I just don't know how to receive. That's my biggest problem.
Mate, let me bless you with this. You have done an incredible job with this podcast in terms of the production quality. Seriously, I love watching podcasts. And do you know what? I'm a bit Kiwi. In the past, I've just been a lurker. I've listened to the content. I've enjoyed it. I've literally got a lot out of it. And they would have no knowledge. It's probably only more recently when I've actually understood the impact on creators of having that engagement, to be able to go to a sponsor, to be able to go to another guest, that having those metrics actually matter for the creators. So please, do us a favor. We're at the beginning of our podcast journey. If you'd like to help us, if the content's been useful to you in some small way, please like, subscribe, share with a friend. It would mean the world to us.
Whatever he said.